Hi, so this is my first question video in a while. Hopefully it will be informative, helpful. I did some research on the topic of body, mind, and soul, and what is the connection between those, and what does that really mean? Because the idea of body, mind, soul being the holistic, all-encompassing way of looking at our existence. Why is it just narrowed down to those three things? This triad, where you have body, mind, soul together. They're all inextricably linked together, but all together they make up our existence. And that if you remove one, well, then you're no longer talking about or dealing with our existence. If you were to put each three of these things in a hierarchy, you would have body at the lowest, and then mind, and then soul at the highest point. At the level of the body, you're dealing with simply the physical aspect of experience. The way that I personally see the body is a vehicle for the mind's dreams and the soul's desires. That's how I would define the body. We can look at the body in terms of scientific perspectives of the evolution of our species. Think of the classic, famous visualization of evolution where you have the monkey and you see a progression of the monkey gradually getting to a point where it's on its feet. There's a legitimate term for a creature that walks upright. It's not coming to me, but and so this would be one way of looking at the physical aspect of our experience. So one other definition that I have for the body is that the body is the material of the density which you experience at a given space-time or time-space. What does that mean? Well, essentially, it's saying that it's the material component of existence. It's restricted to the space-time continuum. We see that in the evolution, and we also see that in our own life cycles. We can see how, as time progresses, our bodies age. We get older, our skin starts to get wrinkly, all those things. We can also see that in terms of space, insofar as we move locations and get places in space with our body. Edgar Cayce, or I'm not sure if it's pronounced Case or Casey, he's credited by many as the founder of New Agey ideas, which kind of emerged in the 80s. He would actually have said that the body is the result of the spirit and mind. So the last point that I want to make about the body is that everything in this component of existence is measurable. When we go beyond into the mind and the spirit, things become immeasurable. We have to make a clear distinction here between the mind and the brain, because the brain, that's physical, that's measurable. It's that gray thing up in our cranium. It's measurable because it has mass, and it's subject of neuroscience. We can actually measure neurons and synapses. When we're performing certain activities, scientists can do imaging and look at what parts of the brain light up, left brain, right brain. When we go into the realm of the mind, in this second part of the triad, we actually are dealing with the totality, the accumulation of all perception. You watching this video right now, and me making this video, is an experience that is created, that arises out of all these different perceptions. But there's also thoughts. Thoughts are arising as you watch this, and thoughts are arising as I make this video. Thoughts are not measurable. You cannot measure a thought. You can't look at a thought. You can't hold a thought. And same goes with all the other aspects of the mind. Emotions, we can see the inextricable link to the body, that all emotions have a physical component. But meanings, context, social arenas, social constructions, memories, relationships, the mind is actually where the subject-object split comes into play. And it's very important here. Have you ever heard of the mind's eye? This is when you simply close, or you can even do it with your eyes open. You put yourself in a different place simply by thinking about it. You can instantly transport yourself to a different time and place, or even a different dimension. Personally, I feel that this aspect of the human experience is the most remarkable and also the most important, is imagination. This is where creativity flows. This is where, in our awake state, when we can conjure up images that allow us to manifest incredible things in our material reality, such as when an ill person uses visualization to visualize the certain diseased part of their body as healthy, and they heal themselves simply through that imaginative intention. Another example would be a businessman who has always wanted to open a restaurant, and he has a visual image in his mind of the restaurant and of the success of the restaurant, and is able to manifest it through having that imaginary concept within his mind's eye. And now moving up to the next, the third highest part of the triad here is the soul. Well, I've heard a lot of different things. The most common thing that I found in my research is that the soul is what connects us to our source. We all come from the same source, and not just humans, but everything, the animal, every plant, the earth, all planets, all the stars, all the galaxies, the entire universe comes from the same source. A reminder, don't restrict this to physical things. Every single thought that every single person has comes from the same source. At the level of the soul is where extrasensory perception comes into play. Beyond what our bodies allow us to do, our souls, which go beyond physical and material. This is why it's called metaphysics. Things like when you know without knowing. I think if everyone digs down to a deeper layer, asks deep questions, and goes beyond what's common sense, everyone would see that, in fact, there is no such thing as coincidence. That's an actual perceptual ability, if you will. You're actually tapping into your soul, where intuition comes from. You just know things without being able to use logic. I think this is the most important thing about the soul, is that it is best described as pure awareness. So what does that mean? Well, consciousness. It is merely being aware. The fact that we are aware of our existence, that we are sentient, it's the life force, why we're not mere zombies. You'll find that a person who is very connected with their soul is very full of life, lots of vitality. Body and mind is in harmonization with their soul. If you don't eat well, if you don't exercise, you don't take care of your body, the mind will, as a result, have poor functioning. You'll likely feel unfulfilled because it also protrudes into the soul. So the soul is pure awareness. There's no judgments. There's no meaning. There's a quote from Shakespeare that there is no good or bad. Only thinking makes it so. And this, out of all the quotes this is one of my absolute favorites. It perfectly just demonstrates at the mind there are judgments, there's good and bad. It's actually in the mind we have our morality. But when you go to the level of the soul, which is the highest level of human experience, it's just pure awareness. Let me show you one way you can very quickly tune into your soul. I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. In, out, and really focus in on your breath. Take your awareness to your breath. Now move your awareness to your toes. What you're doing here is you're exercising your awareness and thereby exercising your free will. Now in my research, I actually discovered that there's another level beyond the soul, and that's the spirit. I used to think that soul and spirit were one and the same, but as it turns out, they're actually two distinct entities. The soul is part of your individual subjective experience, whereas the spirit is God itself. The spirit is essentially the culmination of everything, all that is. When I describe the soul as your connection to the source, another way to say that is the soul is connected to the spirit.